Welcome to the We Rise podcast, where we are building collective resilience. I'm your host, Christine Gyovai, business owner, wife, mother of two, paddleboarder, and I love working with communities across the nation. Join me as I share stories and strategies to inspire action to build resilience and community transformation. From the Navajo Nation to the mountains of Appalachia, incredible work is being done by community members and leaders. I'm excited to share more on the podcast today. Welcome. Welcome, solution seekers and change makers, back to the We Rise podcast. So glad that you're here today and really excited for diving into this topic around building collective resilience and present moment awareness. This idea of collective resilience is at the heart of the We Rise podcast. We talk a lot about resilience, but we often don't look at what that means. And in this episode, we're going to look at 3 different scales of resilience. Inner resilience or self, home, could be urban or rural context, and community scale resilience. And when we mean resilience, in a nutshell, it's the ability to bounce back from some kind of disturbance or shock or tricky time. And more than even bouncing back, it's bouncing forward. It's learning to thrive, and it's learning whatever we went through, that struggle, it's learning to utilize that messy middle of the struggle for our growth and for our transformation and embracing it. And that's tricky and it can be hard, but so powerful. And we've seen time and time again in our work with communities through our sister consultancy Dialogue and Design that when communities have really used their struggle, when they've looked to the lessons that they've learned, they've been able to grow in the future in really beautiful ways. In this episode, we'll look at one specific region in Southwest Virginia, in the Clinch River Valley, and we'll look at a community collaborative, a kind of an organized coalition of folks called the Clinch River Valley Initiative, where they really use the struggle of the past around the loss of an industry of coal to really grow their future. Economic development and ecological preservation around one of the most biodiverse rivers in the world. We're also going to dive into present moment awareness, and really what it means is tapping into the present moment as our guide and using mindfulness to find what brings us joy. So again, welcome. Glad that you're here. There's a line from the book Being Peace by beloved teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk who passed away last year, that really speaks to present moment awareness so much. Thich Nhat Hanh says, "We have to be in the present time because only the present is real. Only in the present moment can we be alive. We do not practice for the sake of the future to be reborn in a paradise, but to be peace, to be compassion, to be joy right now." And I think about that a lot and feel into that a lot. What is it to be joy right now, even in the midst of struggle and heartbreak? How can I choose the present moment and choose places of feeling joy and also feeling that heartbreak at the same time, recognizing that only the present moment is where I'm going to experience that. The present moment awareness and building present moment awareness has been very transformative in my own work, in myself, in my inner landscape of building resilience. Dropping into the present moment has allowed me to really deepen my sense of groundedness, of connection with myself, connection with my family, connection with the earth. Because instead of living in my head about some far off distant place, I come back to what's real and what's present for me in this moment. And that present moment awareness, or dropping back into the present moment, has really transformed my way of relating to myself and the globe. And it's been freeing. It's been transformative. And I offer sharing my experience with a humble heart. The next scale of resilience is at the home scale. One of our recent episodes, episode 37, talked about edible forest gardens and planting for pollinators. And I invite you to check out that episode if you want to dive more into home scale resilience. We also have an awesome guide on our yeswerise.org website, the website for the podcast, around 3 simple strategies to create a more sustainable life and world. And you can sign up for our newsletter and get that free PDF, that free guide. And that dives into these 3 scales of building resilience. The last scale is really focusing on community resilience and how communities can come together and help build more thriving, futures for themselves and each other through working together. And it's that relationship of working together that allows transformation to be possible and to work hard together and to play together and to find joy together. So again, you can find more about those 3 scales of resilience at that guide, 3 simple strategies on our website. I invite you to check that out. When we look at building present moment awareness, I'm going to invite you to just get comfortable wherever you're sitting, even if you're driving or jogging or biking, to just settle into the moment and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Take another deep breath in and a deep breath out. And I invite you to just settle into this moment wherever you are. Notice the sounds that are around you. Notice the feelings that you're feeling in your body as you continue to take a few deep breaths. I notice cardinal birds coming to our blueberry bushes to eat some of the excess. We have blueberries from about June to September here in Central Virginia, near Charlottesville where we live. And we've planted blueberries that will have a long season of ripening with several different varieties. And I'm just noticing in this present moment, the beauty of this red cardinal landing on the blueberry to eat some of the extra blueberries that we just haven't managed to pick quite yet. That present moment awareness is going to be something that I'll bring with me today, this evening, as I move into my day. And that breath is a beautiful anchor to come back to. We often find when we drop into the present moment that we can let go of what we might have been worrying about in the past, or what we might be concerned about in the future, or even what we might be excited about in the future. But just to drop into this moment, it's a really beautiful practice to just take some simple breaths and to come back to the present moment and feel into what is making you come alive in this moment. What's giving you a sense of expansiveness and joy in this moment? What's helping you to feel more alive and what brings you joy? And the more we tune in to that sense of what brings us joy and what helps us come alive, what brings us to the present moment, tuning into that more and more and being present with that, either doing that activity or spending time in that thing that makes us come alive, that's what's going to sustain us in the long run. That's going to be what gives us the energy and the motivation to continue our journeys when days are hard. As I look more at self-care and tending to my own inner landscape, one of the teachers I love, Lisa Nichols, says to give from the overflow, but not from your cup. Lisa talks about as we fill our cups up, as our cups overflow into the saucer, to give from the saucer, but we don't give from our cup. We keep our own inner cup full. We build our own inner resilience. We grow joy. And as I've been playing around with this idea more in recent years, through a lot of real struggle in recent years, for many of us, I've been more aware of using joy as a metric for my life. And that's been really powerful to make choices about whether something will bring me joy. It also really gives me the passion and more presence to create the future that I want to see. That in itself will help sustain me. The other thing that I find to be so important is creating a sense of belonging, creating a sense of connection to nature and to myself is also key, and the power of listening. Those 3 things really help build my own inner resilience, coming back to the present moment, creating a sense of belonging within myself, to nature and to others, and then just spending time listening to others, listening to what is happening around me has grown my own inner reserves tremendously. There's been this explosion of interest in mindfulness in recent years and decades, and there is so much value in mindfulness. I've had a practice for many years of sitting in the morning, and sometimes it's just very simple. There's a recent study in the Frontiers of Psychology that showed the benefits of mindfulness for teachers and students. Now, I was looking this up for a recent talk at a conference that included environmental educators and found this particular line to be so fascinating around the benefits of mindfulness. Not only does mindfulness increase focus, attention, self-control, participating in the classroom, and compassion, but also the ability to resolve conflict, overall well-being, and academic performance. And again, this is for both teachers and students. It also shows decreased levels of stress, depression, anxiety, and disruptive behavior. In another study, teachers described their experience of slowing, pausing, and stopping as a key component of greater social emotional competence in working with students. Mindfulness skills empower teachers to improve both classroom culture for the benefit of both educators and students. Now, teachers have certainly held so much double duty in recent years with COVID, with educating students in online formats and in person, and with so many different styles of learning. My hat is off to teachers, and I give a deep bow to teachers. And the benefits of mindfulness show great promise for both teachers and students, and it's a really great opportunity to increase mindfulness in classroom settings. John Kabat-Zinn describes mindfulness as awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And I think that line is so important about paying attention to the present moment, non-judgmentally. We're so used to evaluating our experience and attaching a value judgment of good or bad to whatever we're experiencing in the moment. And when we pay attention to what's taking place in the present moment, we're just noticing, or letting our inner witness pay attention to what's taking place around us without assigning any value to it. It's almost as if in mindfulness practice, thoughts that come through are just like clouds passing through the sky. They're just there. They're not good. They're not bad. They're just present. We just allow them to move through the sky without trying to grasp clouds, because you know what happens when you try to grasp fog or clouds. They're transient. And the same way our thoughts are real, but they're not necessarily true. Thoughts are not facts. They just are. They're our mind's way of trying to protect us from a story that we might have invented or something that's taking place. But that's all they are. They're thoughts, and they have real value and purpose, and our mind does a beautiful job of trying to protect us. But what I find is really dropping into my body, into paying attention to the sensations in my body, getting curious about what's happening in my body will provide a lot more wisdom for me in the long term, rather than grasping clouds, rather than grasping afterthoughts, one after the other, my monkey mind. So the more that I pay attention to mindfulness and practice it, the greater my inner calm grows, the greater my sense of inner peacefulness grows. And it's something that I have learned to come back to again and again, particularly when there's a lot of storms around me, literally or figuratively. Tapping back into my own sense of inner calm helps me present for what is. Those are some of the ways that I've been building my own inner resilience and have worked with others in my mindfulness practice with others to grow their inner resilience. There's a lot of correlation to how we build resilience at the community scale. And a lot of it has to do with the inner resilience of creating a sense of trust and belonging within ourselves, that we belong to ourselves, that we can trust ourselves and love ourselves. And the same is true at the community scale. At the community scale, when folks are working together to try to create the change they want to see, they need to know that they belong and that they can find tools and resources to create the change they want to see in the world. And these two levels of resilience, inner and community resilience, often come hand in hand. It's not an either or proposition. It's a both and. It's how do we work with, how do we work in relationship with one another? How do we work in relationship with ourselves, paying attention to what's happening in our body? How do we work in relationship with nature and the earth? And how do we support that resilience through our work and in our lives? So some of the ways that we work at Dialogue and Design is through this podcast, We Rise, of featuring change makers who are working to build a brighter future together. And we love sharing stories and strategies that help build a sense of belonging, collective resilience, and community transformation. There is amazing work being done around the globe, and we love lifting the stories up, those stories that are often untold, so others can hear about folks that are making change. And when we work at the community scale through our work with Dialogue and Design and in partnerships, we're often working with community groups, nonprofit organizations, local, state, or federal government folks. But at the core, we're working with everyday community members. And that's where our heart is. We love doing that work. And what we find is that people often know what they want to create in community. They often just need to find a safe space to share those ideas, to connect with others, and to find tools and resources to make those ideas a reality. But we firmly believe, after decades of experience and work with communities, that community members are the best guides and advisors for their own lives and their communities. Local leaders know what they want to create, and our role as facilitators and designers is to listen deeply and for the long run, to really help draw out the collective so that folks can be more effective working together. But it begins with listening, and it comes back to listening again and again. And some of the ways that we've worked to support different community groups, I'll hit some high points of some of the projects we've worked with over the years, and then we'll look at the Clinch River Valley Initiative in the second part of this episode.
Building collective resilience looks different in different places. Resilience means growing a stronger, brighter future for generations to come. It also takes many shapes and comes in different sizes. Resilience includes building community, a healthier environment, and robust local economies. It also means growing equity, inclusion, and belonging, care of self and others, and creating regeneration at all levels. What stories and strategies inspire you? Share your ideas with us on social media and check out our website at yeswerise.org to find the show notes, interview videos, and the links mentioned on the podcast today.
So we work often in two primary geographic areas. We work in Central Appalachia and we work in the Chesapeake Bay in the United States. We sometimes work on national scale projects. We've worked on community and urban forestry projects and just transition, national economic transition projects, helping communities transition beyond cold to what comes next. Many of the projects that I'm going to mention now are really from Central Appalachia and the Chesapeake Bay, and these are two geographies that we live close to and we love. One of them is the Riparian Consortium, and this is a project in Central Virginia. It includes about 25 counties in the central and western part of Virginia along the James River. And it's all about how we can help support forests and streamside ecosystems along rivers and streams, because forests are what really help promote clean water and provide habitat for animals and plants that live along waterways. And we're working with a coalition of folks, many, many different partners working together to help increase the number of buffers, the effectiveness of buffers, and to make them as long lasting as possible through working together. And what we found is that not only do people love working together, but they get a lot more done and they enjoy the ride a lot more when they're working together. Another project that we have enjoyed working on for many years is the Solar Work Group of Southwest Virginia. The Solar Work Group is in far Southwest Virginia, and it started in 2016. And there are three groups who helped kick it off and get it off the ground, or what we would call co-conveners. Appalachian Voices, which is an advocacy organization, the University of Virginia's College at Wise, and People Incorporated, which is a community action agency. And we have many, many partners working together to help grow renewable energy as a new industry in Southwest Virginia. Now, the lights have been powered through coal for many generations with a lot of pride in Southwest Virginia. But as many people know, that resource has dwindled. And the Solar Work Group has taken a very intentional approach of it's not either or, it's not coal or solar, it's both and. Coal has put food on the table for many generations. And as I mentioned, there's a tremendous sense of pride in that coal heritage. But there's also an increased struggle in putting food on the table, and there's a real welcoming of new industries. And solar has been growing in an explosive way, certainly around the globe, but also in Southwest Virginia, especially on lands that were previously mined. The first two school districts have just decided to go solar in this year, as I'm recording this, 2022 in Southwest Virginia. And it's a really tremendous amount of work that's been represented by the work of many partners to change policy, to do education, to understand why the electricity bills that schools were paying was so much higher than those of surrounding similar scale buildings and businesses, and to make solar a viable option for schools. Solar is also going in on homes and businesses, and seeing the growth of solar in Southwest Virginia has been amazing, but also know that it has resulted really from many partners working together. You can check out more about many of the projects that we work on our website, dialogueanddesign.com, and we'll include that link in the show notes. There are really 10 community resilience strategies that we have found are key in work to build community resilience, and they're all needed. Some of them include centering women's voices, new leaders leading. Equity and justice needs to be at the core, as well as planning for the future but honoring the past. Communities recognizing that they have the power to create the change they want to see, and local ideas come first. As a whole, the name of the podcast, We Rise, the collective is more effective, and it's through working together that we create the change we want to see, but it often takes working as a region. Creating community quality of life in the places we live is core, as well as restoration and regeneration. Restoring landscapes that have been degraded, regenerating land, and creating generative energy to work together is also key. So those are the 10 community resilience strategies. But at the core, at the very base level, our foundational belief is that resilience is built on the local ideas of local leaders. And we've seen that time and time again. What really moves the needle towards resilience in community is when local leaders come together to share their ideas and to find tools and resources to make it happen. And we love and are honored to be part of the story of many communities making that happen. And one of those, again, is in far Southwest Virginia in the Clinch River Valley. So if you look at the state of Virginia, this is in the very far corner. The Clinch River flows 100 miles from its headwaters in Tazewell County through Russell County, Wise County, and Scott. Then it flows into Tennessee and into the Ohio and eventually the mighty Mississippi. The Clinch River is named as a global biodiversity hotspot by the Nature Conservancy. It has some of the highest levels of biodiversity in the globe. It's an absolutely beautiful river and watershed. And I worked with my mentors and colleagues, particularly Frank Dukes at the Institute for Engagement and Negotiation at the University of Virginia, for almost 10 years on this project. And you can hear an earlier episode of the podcast where I had a delightful conversation with Frank. The communities along the Clinch include Dungannon, St. Paul, Cleveland, Honaker, and Tazewell, as well as many others. And many folks refer to these towns as the pearls along the Clinch. The Clinch River Valley Initiative is, again, a region that was historically dependent on coal, which powered the lights and the tax base. There's been significant collaboration and investment in the region, and many diverse stakeholders came together in 2010 to create this organized coalition. Now, when Frank and I first started visiting Southwest Virginia, there was an open invitation through our partnership with the University of Virginia's College at Wise to help create space for what the future of Southwest Virginia might look like based on those ideas of local leaders. So the first thing that we did is listen. And we listened a lot. We listened for a long time. We had many dozens of conversations where we just asked what people wanted to see in the future of their communities. And we started to hear a lot of themes that emerged. We first had a gathering of folks at UVA's College at Wise called Building Local Economies in Southwest Virginia in 2010. And the Clinch River emerged as a very strong area of interest for folks. Eventually, we just had many community meetings and a very organic process emerged where a steering committee was formed, where decisions were made by consensus. Many youth from the region got together and helped form a vision statement. Different committees or action teams helped actually work to implement the 5 goals of Curvy. But I love the Curvy vision. Now, this is being updated right now as Curvy is actually now hiring its first executive director and has become a nonprofit organization. But this was written 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago in 2010. The vision statement is, by 2020, the Clinch River Valley will be a global destination based on its unique biodiversity, natural beauty, cultural attractions, and outdoor opportunities. And it goes on to say more, but I love that this community is not dreaming small. This community is dreaming big, global destination. Love that. And they are working on that today, a global destination. So from that first meeting in 2010, many partners came together and said, this is what we want to create. And our role was really to create the space to make it happen. We met over several years up and down the watershed. And the Clinch River Valley Initiative became part of an integrated economic development strategy to build on natural and cultural assets. But it was through the work of many, many partners to work to create the 5 goals of Curvy, which include to create a Clinch River State Park, to develop and integrate access points, trails, and campgrounds, to enhance water quality in the Clinch, to create environmental education opportunities, and to connect and expand downtown revitalization, marketing, and entrepreneurial development opportunities in the Clinch River Valley. Now, what is so cool about this collaborative is that the first goal to develop a Clinch River State Park became a reality. Now you can visit the Clinch River State Park. It's been open for just a few years and is a shining jewel in the Virginia State Park system. It contains some absolutely remarkable views, spring wildflowers, ephemeral wildflowers, hiking trails along the Clinch, and it will have different parcels of land up and down the Clinch. And it started with the 300-acre parcel in St. Paul. It's really powerful when a group of people come together and say, we want to create something. They were able to acquire several millions of dollars of funding from the Virginia General Assembly and to work in partnership to make it happen. And it would not have come to fruition without the work of several partners working together and some unusual suspects. Environmental advocates working alongside economic development practitioners. Many people in Curvy said, hey, we've never actually worked together before, but they recognize that their work together, bringing diverse viewpoints together, resulted in a much stronger collaborative and community space than just the same voices and same folks in the room. It was amazing to see how the action groups formed really their own spaces to create things like an annual Clinch River Youth Summit, which is still taking place today, to open up an ecological center on the Clinch River, which has hosted its first overnight guests just a few weeks ago in the Oxbow Center in St. Paul. The number of accomplishments by this group is too many to name in this episode, but it warms my heart to see not only the change that's been made, but the relationships that have been built through people. People genuinely care about each other, and they've been able to withstand some real struggle together because of the relationships that formed. It took a lot of time to facilitate Curvy and a lot of funding, and the funding for facilitation ran out in about 2018. Frank and I continue to be involved today with the initiative and to hear what's happening, and we work on several additional projects in the region with partners. But it has taken a lot of funding and time and the hard work to make Curvy really the model that it's been pointed to as a success. To get ready to wrap up this story of Curvy, we have been asked time and time again, what's the Curvy model? Why was Curvy such a success? Why is it such a success? And what we really distill down from a facilitation standpoint are 6 main things. First, it was inclusive to all stakeholders. The door was always open to new members joining Curvy. It was never closed. We had active action groups that really worked to implement items and get things done and had continual motivation that they were building and helping each other out, acquiring new grants, sharing information, teaching each other how to write grants and how to access different resources. But the action groups also weren't waiting for someone to come and save them. They recognized within communities that they were the ones who were going to have to create the change within their communities. And it wasn't going to be an external agency that was going to come fix the problems. They were creating the change they wanted to see themselves. Our role as facilitators also helped build trust and legitimacy, and that independent facilitation and coordination was really key, as well as consensus-based decision-making. And finally, we tracked progress over time, which is really important. Some folks have said that the beauty of Curvy is that it was owned by no one entity, but by everyone. And it really is a beautiful example of the collective being new effective. As, again, youth summits are happening every year, new trails are put in the state park, new river access points are open, downtowns are strengthened. It's really the trust and relationships that have been built that continue to grow is where the real beauty is. There continues to be continued community involvement and resilience. And it's just a great example of when folks work together, they really can create the change they want to see. So we invite you to learn more about Curvy. You can check it out through the show notes at our website, yeswerise.org. We'd love to hear on social media about what inspires your own inner resilience. Where have you seen community resilience examples that light you up and that you want to share with others? And we just thank you for listening today. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Hello, solution seekers and change makers. We are glad and grateful for the work you are doing in the world. To learn more about the stories and speakers featured in this episode, check out our website at yeswerise.org. You'll find the show notes, interview videos, and the links mentioned today, and you can join our email list.
Subscribe to the show to catch every new episode wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. It so helps others find the podcast too. You can also check us out on Facebook or Instagram at Yes We Rise to share your ideas. Enjoy!